Hello, everyone. Good morning. Thank you so much for coming to the event. Thank you so much for coming to the session today. It's the first session of AWS re:Invent 2024. We have a very special topic for our presentation, focusing on Yanolja's remarkable growth and customer-centric transformation. For those who may not be familiar, Yanolja is a leading travel tech company that started its business in Korea and has expanded globally across over 200 countries. Today, we are going to share how Yanolja is driving innovation by using Amazon's innovation mechanism and by leveraging AWS generative AI and data technologies. We have 3 speakers for our presentation today. First, my name is Terry, part of Innovation and Transformation Programs at AWS, based in Seoul, Korea. I'll be sharing Amazon's innovation mechanisms and how we have supported Yanolja in their innovation and transformation journey. Next, we have Jeff Kim, the CEO of Yanolja Cloud. Jeff will explain the details on the innovation and evolution in travel tech industry that Yanolja is leading. Lastly, Akira, our enterprise transformation leader at AWS, will introduce some key transformation insights and close the presentation today. Yeah. We have Jeff Kim, the CEO of Yanolja Cloud, and we have Akira, enterprise transformation leader. Thank you. Before we begin, I want to introduce what I'm doing here at AWS. I am responsible for innovation programs for our AWS customers across different industries by leveraging Amazon's culture and innovation mechanisms. Taking Yanolja as an example, I have been helping them in developing new products and services that delight their customers. But we don't just do this in any ordinary way. We use Amazon's unique customer-centric innovation process to develop solution ideas. And we don't stop at ideation. We validate these ideas through customer research, prototyping, and support the entire end-to-end product lifecycle, including go-to-market strategies. Almost every day, I'm discussing very exciting new challenges and opportunities with our AWS customers. Today, I'm here not only to share meaningful achievements with Yanolja, but also inspire everyone to create more success stories in the near future. As part of AWS innovation program, I have been meeting and discussing with the customers, executives, and product teams almost daily. Over the last few years, a common keyword has emerged from these executives and CEOs. It's uncertainty. This concern is particularly critical, not only, especially for the travel tech companies like Yanolja, not only during the COVID-19 pandemic, but also in the post-pandemic period. I often ask customer executives, how do you manage uncertainty in your organization? Here are 3 common answers. The first is future-proofing the business. Based on our research, 76% of CEOs anticipate their current business model will be unrecognizable in 5 years. In this rapidly changing environment, it's crucial to quickly detect and respond to changes. The second strategy is urgent upskilling. Upskill has become more important, especially for digital skills. Previously, trainings in generative AI, data analytics, data science, and software development was typically provided only to IT staff. Now, companies like Yanolja have upskilled, not only IT staff, but also business and product team members in artificial intelligence and data technologies. Yanolja is also planning to continue expanding its upskilling approach across business, product, and technology teams. The third approach is innovating at speed. Speed has become more critical in innovation. To innovate quickly, leveraging technology is mandatory. So cloud technology is optimal for rapid implementation, especially for the companies like Yanolja, driving data-driven digital transformation. That's why many companies, including Yanolja, are using cloud-based solutions to experiment quickly and adapt to changes. Andy Jassy, Amazon's CEO, mentions speed is choice. And he emphasized that it's more important to set up a culture and environment that enables organizations to speed up. I have identified keywords here: experiment all the time. The crucial part is that we need to create a culture and environment within our organization. What kind of a culture and environment? The key to Amazon's successful innovation, as Andy Jassy, our CEO, emphasized, is that we have set up a culture and environment within our organization where we can experiment all the time. This is the key message I want to share with you today as well. So what kind of experiments are we talking about? We conduct experiments to validate the customer problems or customer needs from the beginning. Once we have identified and validated customer problems, we ideate various solutions to address these customers' needs. Experiments also include validating which solution best serves our customers' problems. And we don't stop with validated solutions. We continue experimenting to enhance usability and to improve customer experiences, always striving to provide better services to our customers. At the center of all these experiments is the customer. So our focus is always on meeting and exceeding the customer's expectations through continuous experimentation and improvement. When we started AWS innovation programs for Yanolja and its revolution in travel tech industries, we began by establishing capabilities to experiment within the organization. So we engaged the Yanolja's customer research team to validate the customer's problems and customer needs. And once we gained a deep understanding of customers' pain points, needs, and opportunities, we developed solution ideas that delight the customers. At the center of Amazon's rapid innovation and growth is a unique customer-centric innovation process called working backwards mechanism. All of the Amazon services and products, from Amazon.com e-commerce, over 200 AWS services, Amazon Go, Amazon Prime Video, to Amazon advertising services, were all created using this working backwards mechanism. To explain this process simply, taking Yanolja as an example, when Yanolja launches its new product, the PR team typically prepares press release for its launch date. At Amazon, we create a PR at its initial planning stage, even before the product exists, imagining the product at its launch. We ask ourselves, who is the customer? What is the problem or opportunity? What is the solution? And what is the most important customer benefits? And how do we describe the solution and the experiences to our customers? We create a one-page PR answering all these questions. In addition to a PR, we create FAQs with two different categories: customers' FAQs and internal stakeholders' FAQs. We document all the possible questions and answers from both customers and internal stakeholders. Through the multiple iterations, we evolve documents, validating them with customers until the product launches. This mechanism ensures we have always aligned with customers' expectations and customers' needs. What you have done so far, with Yanolja consists of three main steps. First, it's important to align and engage with executive sponsors of Yanolja to drive innovation within the organization. Early this year, Yanolja and AWS Innovation Programs hosted Yanolja Leaders Innovation Day, inviting CXOs, including CEO, CMO, CPO, CTO, and CHRO. We explained Amazon's culture of innovation and shared learning from Amazon. This program not only shared insights, but also secured commitments for the sponsorship of innovation and transformation programs. And second, we conducted a working backwards workshop to envision big picture solutions for Yanolja's customers and created PRFAQs, as I explained earlier. Third, we are currently developing innovative solutions by leveraging the full potential of generative AI and data technologies with AWS services. Now I want to introduce our next speaker, Jeff Kim, the CEO of Yanolja Cloud. Jeff is going to explain the details on the innovation and revolution in travel tech industries that Yanolja is leading. Please join me in welcoming Jeff Kim to the stage. Thank you.
Thank you for a great opening and introduction today. I'm very happy to be here because about 10 years ago, we met AWS to make a transformation for our business. And 5 years ago, on this stage of the reInvent, we shared our vision in terms of the globalized business. So I would like to share the progress we have made up to now. At the same time, I would like to share our achievement through the collaboration with AWS and with the new vertical AI vision. 10 years ago, we tried to find out the best new innovative revenue model and the data architecture. To do that, we thought about the three major issues in travel industry. First, suppliers like a hotel, leisure facilities, airlines, depend on the manual process too much. Second, data flow between supplier and consumer had been quite fragmented and complex. And third, these two issues caused lack of personalization of the consumer-facing services. You may use the travel booking service, and you may find out that every booking service interface, features, data, and content looks very similar. Why? Because of the data. So that's the keyword we would like to resolve. So I would share what I told you 5 years on this stage of the reInvent. So to realize the fully integrated solution to provide better personalization, actually we need to interact the data from the guest to hotel. But in the reality, this value chain is totally segmented. That's the reason why it's impossible to make a data flow in a frictionless way. So first, we try to understand how to integrate these processes across value chain. This is what I shared 5 years ago. And based on this idea, we tried to think of the solutions. First, we tried to develop the SaaS, in the other words, cloud-based software for the supply and demand to collect the differentiated and comprehensive data points. Second, user identification. We have had huge hassle and the friction when having a consumer-facing interaction. So through the user identification, you would like to make a seamless data flow and the seamless consumer's experience in front of the consumer-facing interaction. Third, we would like to leverage AI technology to realize the personalization. That's the reason why we have built three kinds of the original business models. First, subscription solution, which is the cloud-based software to automate the supplier's automation. At the same time, it's possible to automate the inventory distribution as well. Second, transaction solution. We are connecting between 1.3 million suppliers globally in 200 countries, and at the same time, we are connecting with 18,000 sales channels globally in 170 countries. Through this connectivity, we can provide seamless and frictionless and streamlined data flow. Third, B2C OTA. So we believe we made a unique position as a booking platform for the travel and leisure. That's what I would like to introduce today. So based on these ideas of three original business models, we would like to resolve the issue of data. That's what I shared 5 years ago. I would like to share now. So ideally, if we can connect all the processes across the value chain and all the touch points for the guest and the hotel like this, it's possible to make a data flow in frictionless way. But the problem is that it costs a lot, incredibly. That's the reason nobody tries this kind of the integration up to now. But as of now, it's possible, thanks to the AWS cloud. Cloud is an innovation because before the cloud, it's impossible to resolve the issue of data friction. So as you can see here, we are connecting three original business models into data lake with the AWS technology. And based on this data lake, we can use big data and data mapping technologies to launch the fourth new business model of data solution. In other words, vertical AI service. You may remember COVID-19. COVID-19 is a big issue for every industry, but especially travel industry had big difficulties in maintaining the business. Definitely huge decline in the demand and revenue for the suppliers. At the same time, it's very difficult to hire skillful labor. So without automation, it's impossible to sustain the business. So thanks to the preparation with the AWS, we could provide a new software in the cloud to automate our customers' automation. That's the reason why during the COVID-19 and right after the COVID-19, Yanolja could globalize our business. At the same time, we could make a huge quantum jump in number of our customers and in the total TTV and the revenue and profit. So this is about our culture. So we have three business models originally. The first one is about the subscription solution to automate our suppliers. But the more important thing is that it's possible to collect comprehensive and differentiated data points from the supply. It's very important. At the same time, we provide a connectivity service between 1.3 million suppliers and 18,000 sales channels in 200 countries. That's the reason why we could make another innovation for our B2C service from the just OTA to the travel shopper app and finally daily shopper app. So we could make this kind of the evolution of our B2C service as well. So currently, we are doing the global business. We have the offices in 70 cities. At the same time, half of our employees are the non-Korean outside Korea. Also, we have a huge number of the customers in 200 countries. At the same time, we made a huge innovation in our B2C service. I believe Yanolja has a very unique position as a leading company across several value chains and several categories. Think about this. Yanolja is a leading player in the accommodation and the transportation, including flight. At the same time, we are providing the entertainment and leisure and many kinds of the experience categories for our consumers. That's the reason why we could make a quantum jump right after the COVID-19, as you can see this chart. And currently, monthly active user, the number of the MAU is more than 24 million, which means almost half of the Korean population are using our B2C service. Also, thanks to the globalization, we could make a quantum jump in number of the customers. We have two kinds of the customers. First one is a supplier like hotel, airline, and leisure facilities. Second one is about the sales channel, including global OTAs, or the wholesalers, travel agencies, and tour operators. As you can see here, we made huge growth in number of our customers, especially in terms of the sales channel. We made 170 times growth in number of our sales channel customers. Definitely, it's very helpful to have a global footprint. I believe Yanolja is a very pure global company. In terms of the transaction solution, APEC portion is only 12%, including Korea. In terms of the subsequent solution, Korean portion is only 4%. The reason why we have a big portion from the APEC, because Yanolja is the largest SaaS, the cloud-based software provider in India. That's the reason why we could have a bigger portion for our subsequent solution in India and in APEC. So we made the globalization. It's not easy. If we just stay as a Korean local company without any collaboration with AWS and the other global supporter, I think it may be impossible to make an expansion geographically across several business models. In this sense, we believe that it's very important to shift the culture and way of working. At the same time, it's very important to make an operation in very scalable way. To make a business in 200 countries, to provide a service for more than 1.3 million suppliers in 200 countries, scalability is very critical keywords for us. Also, the speed is one of the most important one. We are doing the innovative service. We should disrupt this industry in the other way. If not, then I think it's impossible to make a penetration in global travel industry. In that sense, we should test. In that sense, experiment is very crucial to make a quicker innovation. So that's the reason why we try to collaborate with AWS. We try to learn from the AWS in 3 ways. First, culture of the innovation, definitely. Second, the product. Especially, we believe that autonomous team is very important to maintain our global team members. We have 70 offices in 30 countries, and number of offices has been increasing quite quickly. That means without autonomous team culture, it's impossible to maintain global team from the startup as a local company in Korea. For the last 10 years, thanks to this kind of the learning, we could make a globalization quickly. And third one is about the cloud architecture. not only about the globalization. I will introduce our vertical AI service. To realize this service, cloud architecture should be a foundation. So in this sense, I would like to explain how to make a consumer and customer-centric innovation we made. Definitely, the customer-centric is the most important culture we would like to realize. So in this sense, these 5 customer questions are very important. And this is not only about the one-time questions. We should repeat these questions again and again to refine our business model and the technologies. So first example is about AI-based personalized platform. At the first time thinking of our business model, we found out that every interface for the pre-trip looks very similar. The consumer doesn't have difficulties in making a booking, but most of the difficulties and concerns come from the on-site and in-trip experience. So we should resolve their difficulties during the trip. That's the reason why we found out the ideas to provide a new service to address the difficulties during the trip. For example, the travel product recommendation is about the in-trip recommendation. It's not about the pre-trip. So when doing the travel, we could have an itinerary of the customer. That's the reason why they can have a very quick and instant recommendation during the trip. Another one is about auto-generated personalized itinerary. So we have collected huge amount of the itinerary data from the customer. Based on this, we could advance our technology to share our recommended itinerary for each city. So these kind of the services can be very helpful for us to have more than 24 million monthly active users only in Korea. Second is about the idea from the operator and receptionist in front of the hotel lobby. You may check in for this hotel, and you may wait for the check-in process. Why? Because the receptionist should use the 3 interfaces separately. At the same time, online data is not connected with on-site operation. That's the reason why you should wait for more than 5 minutes on average. But as you can see here, we integrate between the online and offline across the several interfaces like this. This is the interface for the receptionist. You can see the chatting bar on the top, on the bottom. So please check in the Mr. Race, and according to the condition of the Mr. Race, we could show what kind of the rooms available for the Mr. Race. And if you type the 105, then all the process can be done. So it can shorten the waiting time in front of the hotel lobby from the 5 minutes to the 10 seconds. The other one is about the consumer-facing experience. Besides the operation I just showed, 2 other operations are required. One is the identification. Second one is open card. You may remember, you share your credit card for some kind of issues like the minibar or some of the issues on your room. That's the reason why you should share your credit card when checking in. So we address the issues with this new kiosk. So we developed this cloud-based kiosk with the right OS. So we work with the Samsung Electronics to develop this software and hardware to address identification and the open card issue. definitely this can address the issue for the working customer as well. And also we used the facial recognition service at a very low cost because everything is based on the cloud. That's the reason why you don't have to worry about kind of the cost to develop the advanced features like this. So these two, for the receptionist and the consumer, can automate the whole process for the check-in, room service, and concierge service. But on top of that, we are connecting with the other services for the hotel's operation, like the concentrated the call center, or we are connecting with the housekeeping service with laundry and the amenity. Also, we are connecting with the security services. So everything can be connected based on our cloud-based software. So definitely, I believe that this kind of the automation can be expanded into the full-scale level globally. Last one is about the AI. So I talk about 3 original business models of Yanolja. We have built this business model for the last 10 years. But it's not our final goal. We would like to build global data enablement platform to disrupt this industry itself. Because within 5 or 10 years, we will have a new gen AI, like AGI or ASI. That means we should be prepared to have a new interface. So in that sense, we try to advance our data architecture and business model to realize this. So I explained 3 original business models from the subscription solution to automate the suppliers, and transaction solution to connect between 1.3 million suppliers and the other 18,000 sales channels in 200 countries. And third one is about the B2C service from the travel shopper app to the daily service for more than half of the Korean population. But beyond that, we have invested into advanced data architecture with big data and data mapping technologies in the data lake. That's the reason why we could build new vertical AI services for each customers, from the supplier and sales channel and the consumer. I would like to explain one by one. First one is about AI-based dynamic pricing for the supplier. The hotel would like to maximize their revenue, but it's very difficult to optimize the right price. Every data around me can be changed every time. That's the reason why it's very difficult to predict right price. So we think about this. In terms of the hotel, they have 3 kinds of the prices, like a B2B price, package price, and B2C price. Also, the price can be different depending on the room type or conditions like breakfast included. And also, according to the day, according to the calendar, the price can be different. That's the reason why we should automate the pricing system to maximize price through the dynamic pricing. This is the example. So we built ideal modeled occupancy rate trend like this, and according to the real-time data like occupancy rate and the competitors' price or the traffic on the district. So we are collecting huge amount of data to automate the pricing system to maximize the revenue power for the hotel. Second is about the prediction model for the sales channels. retail price is not that controllable because the price can be decided according to the supply and demand. This is why, to maximize the margin of the sales channel, the channel should find out the lowest wholesale price. But globally, there are 600,000 sales channels, including wholesaler and retailer. At the same time, as I told you, there are huge kinds of the prices according to the calendar and the room type and then condition. This is why it's impossible to find out the lowest price. Also, it's impossible to check the every real-time data from the amount of the sales channels, because if they try to do, the cost for the server and so on will be very high. So we built prediction model based on the machine learning from our data lake. So we have a model to predict the channel and timing to find out the lowest price of the inventory. So we automate the process for our customers. So many major OTAs, global OTAs, or the wholesalers, and the major tour operator are using our technology to find out the lower price than before. At the same time, we launched fintech service like Price Watch. It's for the end consumer. So when making a reservation, you may be curious whether the price will go up or down. This is why we should book the hotel with the cancellation. But it's possible to provide the prediction of the price. So if the price will go up, probably you would like to use the price lock. If the price will go down, probably you may use the auto buy, like your stock. Also, upgrade, upsell, or the price drop protection, or FX protection, many kinds of the fintech service we can provide for the sales channels. So this kind of the services is very important to move forward as a vertical AI. Because if we are thinking of this kind of the service only as just prediction, it's not a big thing. But if you can imagine the new era and new world with the Gen AI, definitely this kind of a service is inevitable to be connected with Gen AI with a new interface, I believe. Third one is about the digital marketing. Travel industry is quite different from the other industries with the good digital marketing. E-commerce, fintech, or the game. We already have a good digital marketing technologies to enhance the target accuracy for the advertising. But pattern of the travel is quite different from the other industries. In terms of the e-commerce, it's possible to identify or recognize the pattern. If you buy the water today, probably it's possible to predict you will buy the water again in 3 weeks, for example. But in terms of the travel, the pattern is totally different from the e-commerce or the other industries. If you go to the parties today, you will go to party again? Usually not. At the same time, the occasions can be different. So you came here for your business trip, but next trip, probably with your family. The other trip with your friends. So occasion can be different. Which is why it's very difficult to identify the pattern to do the digital marketing. Another case was made by the fashion e-commerce company. So one fashion e-commerce company reached out to us to ask how to sell the swimming suit in the winter. Usually, it's impossible to sell the swimming suit in the winter. But in terms of the travelers going out to the kind of the Southeast Asia or the Oceania, definitely they should buy the swimming suit for their travel. That's the reason why digital marketing for the industries different from the original industry with the digital marketing, definitely is possible to make a business. So thanks to our vertical AI services, we could make a quantum jump in the total TTV. Transaction volume is the most important number for the platform service. So in that sense, we already achieved more than 7 trillion Korean won, in USD around 5 billion. And in terms of the recent third quarter, we achieved almost 9.9 trillion Korean won transaction volume, in USD around 7 billion. So we are making the quantum jump in the total transaction volume. At the same time, thanks to this data, we can enhance the accuracy of our vertical AI services. Definitely, the growth has been very helpful to enhance our revenue growth. We made more than 120% YY growth in our revenue from the B2B solution businesses globally. At the same time, we could make an improvement in our profitability. I believe most of the AI services should sacrifice their profit to make growth in their revenue because of two reasons. First, usually they should spend huge cost to collect the data. Second, they should be connected with new customers, which required a huge investment. But for the last 10 years, we tried to build cloud-based software called as a SaaS for the supply and demand. That's the reason why we could collect comprehensively and in a differentiated manner. That's the reason why we could collect the holistic and huge amount of data through the profitable business model. At the same time, we have invested into data lake to be connected with huge amount of the customer. We have tested our vertical AI business model only with 1% out of the potential customers who are connected with our data lake. And the test with the 1%, the major customer has been quite successful. That's the reason why, after the experiment, we have a plan to expand into the major customer pool. So in that sense, I think this kind of the new data architecture is very helpful to make a growth and improvement in revenue and profitability. And recently, in terms of the recent third quarter, we achieved more than 30% EBITDA margin. That means we are driving the improvement in our profitability through our vertical AI services. And I would like to share the last point about the Gen AI. I believe that Gen AI should have a new commercial, profitable revenue model to make a sustainable growth. I worked at Google about 17 years ago. Before the Google, I worked at Yahoo. At the time, I realized that the Google search engine looks great, but it was impossible to charge the fee to the end consumer. That's the reason why they tried to find out a new business model like advertisement. Similarly, I think Amazon made a great B2C service, but based on the B2C service, they should find out another business model like AWS, cloud business. So similarly, in spite of the great service, it's very hard to charge the fee to the end consumer. But how? Currently, Gen AI depends on the subscription fee only. But if they can be connected with vertical AI like Yanolja, it's possible to create new business model. Because It's not only about the search and the recommendation and booking. As I told you, as I mentioned before, in terms of our B2C service, customer doesn't care about the booking itself. Pre-trip service is not that difficult. We do not have an issue there. We have an issue during the trip. It's very difficult to find out the location. I would like to have a better recommendation right after checking in. Usually after the checking in, probably you may talk about what's the best restaurant right now. In that sense, in-trip service is very important. So only with the pre-trip and the booking process, I think, is not that meaningful to disrupt consumers' travel journey. But during the trip, in terms of the in-trip service, we can make a huge disruption to enhance the consumer's travel journey and their experience. So in that sense, Gen AI's interface is great and optimized for the in-trip process. That means you are having your assistant with you during the trip. So in that sense, I believe that Gen AI and the vertical AI like Yanolja have a complementary relationship to realize the new business model beyond the subscription fee. That's the reason why we are working on such collaboration with the potential Gen AI services to make a disruption in the near future. So I would like to introduce the Akhil for the next session.
Thank you, Jeff. Thanks, everybody. My name is Akhila Gudla. I'm a go-to-market leader within enterprise transformation space. And thank you, Jeff, for walking us through that hugely successful transformation journey that you have been through and adding tremendous value over the last 5 years, as you have explained us to all. So how do all these successful transformations happen? What do modern enterprises do differently to make this transformation successful? And what is the common denominator that these high-velocity organizations have? I'm going to summarize that in the remaining time for you. Now, as everything at Amazon and AWS, we have an opinion. We think a certain way in terms of what transformation can mean. And at the forefront of that is business value. At AWS, at Amazon, we take pride in being a very customer-centric organization. Being customer-centric is our purpose. And that purpose is clear, easy to articulate, and it holds us accountable on a day-to-day basis. You would think that having a purpose that can be clearly articulated is an easy thing, but if you don't have that, and if there is a lack of alignment in your organization in terms of what your purpose for this transformation is going to be, then it's not going to even take off or lift off the ground in the first place. Your leadership and your teams need to understand very well and believe why you're doing what you're doing. And that becomes the North Star for your organization, for your teams. The North Star, backed by a very successful, very well-defined outcomes and quantifiable metrics or KPIs that help you calibrate and define what those successful outcomes can be, is a very strong foundational element of embarking on a transformation, regardless of where you are on the journey. Now, there are organizations who transform. Now, we have been through the first cycle of transformation. There's more transformation happening at Yanolja. What does that mean each time, and how do you build that is important, but it starts with the understanding of the purpose and the well-defined outcomes. And once you do that, at that point, we got to start building capabilities. And in terms of capabilities, I like to think of them as these building blocks or elements. The first one is organization and culture. As you're growing, like Yanolja talked about, globalization and being present in 200 countries in a very short span of time, that's a huge scale. How do you retain your cultural fabric, your ethos, and make sure your teams are moving in a high velocity manner and fashion? That is important for retaining a day one mentality. We define day one mentality as having the mobility and the agility in your organizations to start making very fast decisions. And we call that high velocity, and our founder describes that as a competitive differentiator and intrinsic to being a day one culture. If you're not able to innovate consistently and making decisions fast, then it means you are already in day two. We have concepts of at Amazon such as the two-pizza team. Most of you must be familiar with it. Basically, it's the size of a team where the team can be easily fed by 2 pizzas, right? And having that autonomous decision making, as Jeff has alluded to. How do you create psychological safety for your teams to experiment? If a new technology comes up, how can they experiment? How do they have access to all these new technologies? That is an important aspect of cultural development. How do you skill your people? So we have many such mechanisms and mental models through which we work with our customers to making sure that globalization efforts, scaling is all practical and is all can be done in line with the purpose that they have defined for themselves. I talked about mechanisms, and that is our second element or building block in terms of capabilities. Now, mechanism is a very Amazonian term. Basically, it talks about a process which has the ability to iterate itself, improve itself, and to be built for scale. My colleague Terry has alluded to working backwards and culture of innovation, so those are excellent examples of mechanisms which we work with our customers to flesh out the purpose, the metrics, the KPIs, the initiatives, and how do you produce a roadmap that is actionable over time again and again. The third element is about being data-driven. I won't go into it at length since Jeff covered about how being data-focused and help them monetize it, create new revenue channels, verticalize their AI services. But what I would say is that when you talk about data democratization, 85% of the challenges are not data-related or technical. And the last two elements are really having the ability to access advanced technologies. We talk about developer productivity all the time. When a new technology comes in, like AI, ML, generative AI, smart floor, operations on the factory floor, smart manufacturing, or IoT, are your teams able to build? Are your teams able to access those and play with them? That's an important aspect, and that is very closely interrelated to the architecture. Most enterprises which have been running their businesses for many, many decades, they're not necessarily built for cloud and built for agility, because cloud is, of course, a new thing relatively. So are you looking at your business architecture, your technical architecture patterns, and modernizing that? Jeff talked about preparation and being prepared for what's coming. So the advanced technologies and architecture go hand in hand to make sure you're building the capabilities as you're transforming your organization. This is all great. How do we do that? At Amazon, and as an enterprise transformation specialist, we take an iterative approach. We like to say, think big, start small, and scale fast. And when somebody says everything is a priority, it means nothing is a priority. So we started prioritizing the problems, or what is it that the customer wants to solve for, and it has to be only 2 or 3 at a time, not more than that. You take those priorities and you flush them out into lighthouse initiatives. You understand the gap, or what's the gap between now and then, based on the outcomes and the purpose and everything else that you have defined, and you start solving them. It's all hands-on keyboard. But it doesn't stop at that. Once you have minimum lovable products, once you start building capabilities, you will have new challenges. You will have new problems to solve for. So in order to make a transformation sustainable and scalable, as you are experimenting, as you are building these capabilities, you also need to think about instituting a mechanism for that transformation. You must be familiar with the Amazon flywheels. So how can you actually create a flywheel that will help you with high velocity, that will help you with sustainable transformation? As you're undergoing the first two stages that I spoke about, organizations need to understand what are their barriers, because every organization's culture is different. So what are their barriers? What are their constraints? Which kind of mechanisms and mental models would work best for them? And then use those to propel into high velocity and accelerating their flywheel. When you couple that with data-driven insights, operational insights on products, on data sets, on channels, you can quickly figure out what's working for you, what's not working for you. And those insights, data-driven operational insights, will inform how do you need to adjust your strategy and your actionable roadmaps. How do you define your backlog of initiatives? Doing this in such a way, it creates a lot of efficiency in how your teams work, how you run your business, hence creating business value quickly, and that business value is also differentiated enough. So I would like to just summarize it that way and have you nail down a transformation. I'm sure there are many more, and I hope we are going to be presenting again about our next transformation soon. Now, if you like to know more about our case studies and what kind of collaterals and what kind of mechanisms we have in innovation and transformation space, I have a couple of QR codes here. So you can talk about what our go-to-market motions are. You can read and listen to a lot of other customer talks. I would invite you to do that. We have other tracks throughout this week, and I appreciate all of you coming here to Mandalay Bay at 8:30 a.m. on a Monday morning. I would invite you to check out these as well. We have about 2.5 minutes for questions. If you have a question, please raise your hand.